industry. And so I found that, well, first of all, it's interesting that Boyd speculated that it might mean it's so fancy that I'm surprised to see you here. That has nothing to do with it at all. It's a phrase that comes from the 30s and 40s, roughly. It's colloquial. It's used to greet someone that you did not expect to meet at the place you were at. And so, and originally, if you think about the term flight of fancy, it means a kind of an imagination or a outlandish sort of speculation. So fancy means sort of imagine in the original definition. And so the phrase is essentially synonymous with, oh, imagine seeing you here. It's a reference to, hey, this is an unexpected meeting. I did not think that this was going to happen. And it's typically used in, at least in my experience, it's used in the context that Raylan used it in, which is a sarcastic way of saying, hey, I was pretty sure you were going to be here, but I'm going to pretend that I wasn't, sort of thing. Like, oh, it's very unusual for me to see you at this particular house of prostitution, even though we're both here all the time, that sort of thing. Fancy seeing you here. It's that sort of phraseology, I think, that Raylan is using. And, Boyd being able to react to it so quickly after being surprised by Raylan is, it's testament to Boyd's wherewithal, but at the same time, I really want to know if he if he knew he was sunk the moment Raylan opened his mouth, or if it was later when he mentioned the bank robbery that really did it. Yeah. So,
well, one of the best things about this whole series is Boyd and Raylan always either having dialogue between each other.
Oh yeah,
it's like some of the best dialogue and some of the best scenes too.
Yeah, and we talked about this on the other show we did, where we were talking about City Primeval a little bit, and about how the villainy of Boyd and the interactions between Boyd and Raylan added so much to the original run of Justified that it makes me a little nervous if Mansell is not as kind of dynamic and charming and articulate as Boyd is. I think the show might suffer a little bit because of that.
Yeah, unless he brings a whole different dynamic that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, maybe he brings out the savage in Raylan, right? Maybe that's what the fun part of this is, or something. More of a Nicky Augustine sort of side of Raylan.
Yep,
that could be interesting. Okay, so I think that gets us through pretty much most of the episode. We've got a few things to wrap up here. So we've got Ty visiting Joyce. He says he's investigating the robbery. He works for a security firm and he's working on behalf of somebody whose stuff was stolen. He basically intimidates her, and again, in a very kind of friendly, buddy way, into telling him that the cops were suspecting a local boy, Boyd, what she says is a local boy, Boyd Crowder. And as soon as he hears that, he says, okay, great. And he takes off. We get a scene with Ava and Boyd. Ava comes into the bar. She is made up, dressed up, and ready to seduce Boyd to gain his trust. And she clarifies her earlier point to him, right? Where she told him, don't hide your shit at my house. She says, I don't care if you're hiding stuff at my house, but ultimately, if you're going to do that, I'm in. So you've either got to tell me what's going on, or you need to leave me out of it entirely. You pick one of the two. You can't have it this middle ground where you are sort of kind of maybe telling me what's going on, but not really, and sometimes after the fact. No, she wants to be either in, which is what makes her useful to the marshals, or she wants to be out, which is what keeps her potentially out of jail, but probably not if the marshals decide to lock her up. She also knows that Boyd is going to say, hey, I want to be with you, so you're in. She then really shows her value to Boyd and tells him something that she did not tell Raylan. And that is that one of those deeds was to Pizza Portal, which is a pizza shop in Harlan. Now, they both know something special about what Pizza Portal used to be, and we don't know. We find out at the end of the episode that that it used to be a bank, but we don't know that, and so when they're having a conversation, Rava's like, "And you know what's in the basement?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course I know what's in the basement." And then Boyd's going to celebrate, so they're going to get a bottle of liquor and they're going to drink it to the corners, which is an expression I've never heard before, but I liked very much, to empty that square Jim Beam bottle down, right? So drink it down to the corners. And we find out that, it used to be a bank and it has a vault in the basement. And so that is likely where the money is that is being used to acquire this real estate. So Boyd now has a pretty good idea where the cash is. And if Boyd's good at anything, Boyd's good at robbing banks. So we have a little bit to see there about what's going to happen with Boyd and this vault. And then one final thing, Ty and Seabass are pulling big rolls of plastic out of the car. He says something to the effect of, "See what happens when you call me a peacock." We realize he's at the house of the people who turned him down earlier that day. We don't necessarily know what he does with the plastic, but that amount of visqueen is never a good thing, I wouldn't think.
It's the implication.
Yes, it's very much the implication. We're not going to hurt women. It's not, you don't understand. It's the implication. It's such a good scene.
It is. It's fantastic.
So that's the episode, I think. So let's get to our final segment.
I was telling my friends this morning how yesterday you come to me and if you don't get out of town in 24 hours, I'm going to shoot you on sight. Fire now!
Are you going to shoot him if you catch it?
I'll kill 4 of you before you even clear your weapons, and I'll take my chances with the other two.
If you get the chance, shoot him in the nuts.
I don't pull my sidearm unless I'm going to shoot to kill.
Are you going to shoot him too, Raylan? And Raylan doesn't pull his gun. Oh, actually, he pointed to his gun or displayed his gun.
Brandish.
Choo-Choo.
Yes.
Yeah, brandish. Yes. And that was it. There was and then the implication of the
of the plastic either being used to wrap bodies or something, right?
Yeah.
So
there wasn't much. There wasn't anything else really for the segment.
Not a ton of violence. A lot of implied threatened violence, but not a ton of actual violence in this episode.
Yeah.
There's some talk about putting out eyes. That's it makes me very
That's
squeamish.
All pillow talk, though.
That's true. Yeah, you think Catherine's panties were wet after that. So, all this talk about blinding rats is making me horny.
Well, she was looking for advice from
and she got it, didn't she? That is funny. We'll have to revisit. I don't want to give this part away. We do try to avoid the kind of big spoilers on this podcast, so I'm not going to kind of give this away. But after we find out some things about Catherine and Avery's relationship down the road, we need to revisit this conversation because I think it's an important one because. Yeah. Well, I won't get into the why, but it's good. It's good to come back and revisit this and see maybe what's going on here. So, all right. Well, I think that gets us through the episode then. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We say it in that order because it's the easiest order to do it in. Subscribe means you hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, whatever app that is, whether it's Spotify or any other podcatcher, the Apple Store, the Google Store, whatever. That's going to make sure that you get every episode of the podcast as it's released, including the one that's coming out June 26th, today, the day we are recording this episode. That's our special on Groundless City Primeval, on Justified City Primeval, and the recent trailers and teasers that have been released for that show. We break those down and talk about those in detail. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Check us out on social media at Groundless Pod and at Groundless Podcast. You can email us, groundlesspodcast@gmail.com, with your questions, corrections, and your love troubles, of course. And then, let's see, what else do I normally say here? I think that's about it. Oh yeah, as far as podcast schedule goes, this will be the last episode of Groundless until after City Primeval airs. So we are going to record a few of these and queue them up, but we aren't going to release those until after Groundless City Primeval is finished airing. And that's because we don't want to dump all of our content at once. We know everybody's got a lot of things to do, and you have a lot of podcasts you listen to. So we don't want to do more than one release a week. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do one release a week, and it'll be City Primeval. And we're very much looking forward to that. But yeah, this one will be the last main run Justified episode until after City Primeval is finished airing, and then we'll be right back to our normal production schedule of one episode every 2 weeks following that. So we will see you back on Groundless in sometime in September. And we will be with you for Groundless City Primeval starting July 19th. And you will be able to pick that up right in the current feed. No need to subscribe to a different feed. You can subscribe. You can stay subscribed to this one. We are going to release it in parallel on the Groundless City Primeval feed as well. But you can certainly pick it up here. So I think that's it. And until next time, thanks for listening.